I was introduced as the session as in the next session as in chapter in investing, and to me it is a natural evolution. So what I want to talk to you about is the sense that so today to me is couldn't be a better place to look at investing, look at what we've just experienced. We had inflation, we had a period of zero interest rates where money was plentiful and now money got priced properly. And now we have also people who want to care about the environment, which to me is a natural evolution, coupled with people also are using the new technologies to be able to participate in so many different things, which is really the democratization of investing. So if I can start with you, Tamer, ask you, how do you reflect on this change in environment from money was plentiful to actually money pricing risks appropriately?
So it's been absolute and total chaos for quite a while. And in times when everything is absolutely and completely chaotic, we have to look at some of the values that continue to bind us, whether it's in times of chaos or times of order. And there's a lot of really cool history around how people changed their investment mindset. And I'll tell you very, very quickly. So the first sort of change in how we think about investing happened with university students. As some of you know, endowment funds are some of the biggest investors for people like us. And students at universities in the United States decided, well, we don't want to invest in oil and gas. We don't want to invest in coal, tobacco, gambling, right? And that was the first phase or stage of evolution where people were saying, hey, these things are bad. I want them excluded from our investment portfolios for the university in which I study. After that, we started thinking about ethical investing, so things like animal testing and working conditions. After that came a wave of ESG and impact investing, where we started thinking about blended returns, right? Social impact and financial returns. So people were willing to compromise on how much money they made instead of just focusing on returns. They were willing to accept positive social outcomes. And now, I think Sonia can talk a bit more about this, we're seeing a new wave of investors thinking about something called conscious investing.
Sure, do you want me to continue? Yes. Sure. So I guess for those who don't know me, I'm a GP at VentureSouq. We've been around for 10 years, which is a long time given how still very nascent the ecosystem, I believe, to still be. So when thinking about something like value-based investing, what we call conscious investing, it's kind of encouraging investors to move away from that two-pocket thinking approach, thinking that if you're investing in a mission-driven founder based in Egypt or based in Saudi or elsewhere, that it falls under the bucket of philanthropy or that you're going to get limited financial returns. We at VentureSouq are a VC. We have two themes. We focus on fintech and climate tech. I lead our climate investment practice. We are looking for those financial returns. We're not investing in a mission-driven founder because of some lofty ideal that he or she may have. We want to believe that there's a commercial model behind that business. And so I think what's happening in the region right now is that, sorry, it's a bit weird to hear myself echoing around the stage. I feel like I'm in my head. So I think like we do need to kind of move away from the two-pocket thinking driven approach that I mentioned before. And I think we're seeing it now with COP specifically. Those in the ecosystem that are not familiar with investing in climate-based technologies are now going to be able to actually go to Expo and see them firsthand, experience them firsthand, and hear from climate-based investors from all around the world who are flying in to speak at COP. And so I encourage those of you who are interested in giving your money more purpose, more impact, more purpose, and more power ultimately, to actually start opening your mind to this. There's people like Tamer and myself who have historically invested in founders who are looking for long-term social, economic, and environmental positive outcomes. And you can do that and get a financial return at the same place. We, from our impact vehicle that we launched in 2020 called the Conscious Collective, we already have our first unicorn. And so, this is not us investing in, a social enterprise in Latin America. This is very much a for-profit entity. It's the first B Corp unicorn in Latin America. and we are expecting a financial return. We already have multiples on that investment already. Sorry, that was a long-winded answer.
But I guess the investing at the end of the day needs to attract capital, and people's labeling of whether this is impact, whether it is whether it's to take care of the environment. The bottom line is, if this is how the investors want to live in an environment that's clean, they're naturally going to allocate capital. And I think what you've just had a reset of the price of money, along with it people who want to do things for the environment, and these things happening at the same time probably is creating a bit of a tension. But my sense is we're gonna step over that. How are you seeing these from the investor side? Do you see people who are just fixated on the impact, or do you think now the price of money and the impact investing are converging?
So the cost of money has created a lot of change in our ecosystem, right? Debt was considerably cheaper, and now we're actually seeing it become more expensive or priced better, and this creates a significant opportunity for equity, right? Equity can now compete better. It's becoming more efficient, and it's a window of opportunity. And when you couple that with a change in how people are thinking about solving problems, right? We always say market, 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 or some people will say, oh, team, team, team. But then some people say, well, I'd rather back an A- team in a A+ market, right? But some of the biggest problems in the world are things like the environment or education attainment or access to water, electricity, right? And we always say, well, show me a big market. Well, these are the biggest markets there are. And if you go into and try to solve some of these most pressing and complex problems, that's when you actually generate outsized returns.
From your experience, Sonia, do you do, do you see the convergence between the pricing of capital and the value system that people are adhering to?
I think for us it's interesting because my team is focused on the climate space, and before that more of the financial inclusion, health tech, kind of what some people call impact space more broadly. So that reset that was felt more recently with regards to certain sectors like fintech, etc., was not as harshly felt, I would say, from my portfolio, because I guess maybe we invested in the unsexy sectors. And so, we weren't going in at crazy valuations. And so we didn't see as steep kind of a devaluation of these companies as some of the other sectors perhaps did. And even then, stuff like fintech, for example, it was much steeper of a shift in, I think, the West, to be honest, in Europe and the US, than we've seen even in the MENA region as well, where maybe there was a bit of a shift in valuation, but not as steep as what we saw in the West, because there's still very much a need in this region for acceleration in a lot of different sectors, fintech included.
How committed do you think investors or governments are to this ecosystem that you guys have described? Because as I said at the onset, I think people evolve and they become better. They get fed, become educated, they want to care about the environment. That's a very natural. But then in tough times, these models gets questioned. So I know Europe is very advanced in this. US, there is a bit of a disagreement, but we seem to have now moved a bit further. And the region here wants to do these things, and they recognize that it actually helps their carbon economy indirectly. So, how are you seeing the conversations when you see that people are scrambling to raise money, and at the same time people who have invested and are not getting the liquidity or the marks that they expected?
I think, listen, we're a couple of days away from COP now, so obviously that's kind of front of mind. Climate is definitely front of mind for a lot of people, which I personally am very happy about. If it takes an event like COP for people to start thinking about climate change, then I'm happy. I think the challenge, and I'm going to have to be diplomatic, the challenge that we're facing here in the region is I think there's a lot of initiatives being put forward for entrepreneurs, which is great. And so obviously you're going to see during COP a lot of announcements being made left, right, and center around various initiatives, etc., focused on kind of the entrepreneurial side of the equation. I think the elephant in the room that no one talks about is the capital. And I think people forget that we as GPs also have to fundraise. So if we want to see some of these entrepreneurs excel, we as GPs need to be able to inject capital into them. And people forget that we as GPs also have to fundraise. And so I think there is a bit of a funding gap with regards to the climate sector specifically. And hey, hold me to my word, this may change 2 weeks from now. We may be having a whole different conversation post-COP, post-announcements. But I would say up to now, it's been more difficult to pitch the climate thesis than it has to be pitching other theses. I think people don't understand, we focus on early stage climate, so we do seed and series A. People think of climate as more later stage, kind of growth stage capital, which is fine, it exists there. There's a whole value chain of climate financing required, right? But we at Venture Souk will not go there. Go talk to KKR, go talk to TPG, go talk to, Investcorp and the Carlyle Group if you want that type of kind of ticket size and asset heavy opportunities. We're focused on the earlier side. And so I think there's a need for education in the market, even amongst the LPs here, with regards to, okay, Venture Souk, if you're investing in early stage climate, what does that mean in practice? And kind of give them case studies. So what we've been doing is, because we invest internationally, each time we have portfolio companies in the climate space coming through the region, we send them our LPs way. Go meet with Mubarla, go meet with ADQ, go meet with all these LPs so that they start also understanding the types of opportunities that we're investing into. And I know some of you are around here, so.
Tamer, I want to ask you the question, what is NLP for you? Because today, the definition of NLP is different than my previous experience with NLP back in the dot-com bubble burst, which was a similar period to now. So who is NLP for you now?
So LPs were typically sort of these really opaque, unknown sort of entities with tremendous amounts of capital that nobody knew really how much they were. But now they're just institutions just like us. They're out in the open. They're accessible. They're available. To us, we believe that our number one value at Shuruk Partners is that we're founders partners. And we believe the same way in our relationship with our LPs. My LPs need to be my partners in every aspect of what I do. They are, I'm not just investing their money and giving them their return. They're also part of the conversation with me. They share common values with me. They share the same long-term goals and the ambition to affect real and genuine change in this region and around us.
So picking up on that note, so when you say they are your partners, which resonates a lot with me, then are you really sharing with them the challenges that you're facing? Like, for example, the typical question today between a GP and NLP is your cash. How much cash you have for you to continue surviving?
Yeah, so the reality is that the market is still very nascent, like Sonia said, right? We're going to start seeing funds close up full cycles very soon. And our moment of truth as GPs in this young region is coming, right? And we will start seeing some of the theses we backed actually generate the value that we hypothesized they would, right? And that's going to be a real intersection for organizations like Venture Souk, like Shuruk Partners, where we're actually going to show folks that what we said we were going to do, we did, and it created the outcomes that we thought it would create, right? Obviously, it's not going to be sort of 100%, but ultimately, all of us here believed in something, and our moment of truth is coming, maybe in 2-3 years, I would say.
But just to pick up on that, sorry, Hashim, I think it's an interesting question, right? Because it's like the GP-LP relationship is akin to the GP-founder relationship as well. How open and transparent as a founder do you want to be with your investor? How open and transparent do you want to be as a GP with your LP? How wide do you want to open that kimono of yours and either leverage kind of the knowledge, the expertise that your investor or your LP has versus try to cover up and make sure that they don't find out that you're actually in trouble? And I mean, I personally think it's actually a very dicey dynamic. And like, I think people like Tamer and I think what we like to do with our founders is, sorry, I'm totally speaking on behalf of you, but I know we're akin and like-minded, is create a safe zone for the founders, for them to feel comfortable opening up to us. And they're not going to do it with all their investors on the cap table, but at least if they can do it with some of their investors on the cap table, where can they have open, transparent conversations with them and be like, hey, Tamer, I'm really struggling personally. I'm going through a divorce. Like, it's actually starting to affect work. Like, give me some pointers. I think that's important. And I'm not saying, and I don't expect all investors or all GPs to do that, but I do think we do need a couple more, not a couple more, but a couple on each cap table. So we need more of these types of GPs where they do create that safe zone. And I know it sounds a bit idealistic and cliche, but I really mean it, because I think we've both, I know you guys have and we have as well, been through COVID, difficult conversations with our founders. And you don't want them to be pent up in a corner, feeling ashamed that they can't share with their, with their investors. Just like, you also want LPs to create that safe space for GPs. Like, we should perceive our LPs as our allies, just like founders should see us as investors on their cap tables as allies as well. So, sorry, I know you want to jump in.
No. I absolutely agree with that. Right? If I were to give any advice to founders, there's two types of investors you should make sure you have on your cap table. If they can have both characteristics, that'd be great. Make sure you have at least one empathetic investor, someone who you can actually pick up the phone in the good times and the bad times. You want to give them the good news, but also you can feel safe enough and comfortable enough to give them the bad news and know that they're not going to just bail, right? The second type of investor you should have on your cap table is an activist investor, right? So when things are bleak and things aren't going right, you want someone to step up, lead around for you, pull everybody together, push it through, and fight for you to make it happen, right? If you have one or both, ideally, on your cap table, then you know someone's got your back.
That's good.
And how about so you mentioned something interesting, that as a community here in the region, talking to each other. How have you seen the interaction with the outside venture investors, whether it's the funds or even other technologies? Do you see these people reaching out to each other?
Definitely reaching out to Tamer and I, because I think everyone and their mother is fundraising from the region these days, as everyone knows. So I think we're feeling it. I think, again, speaking on behalf of Tamer and myself, I think we get calls on a daily basis from GPs from other markets, which is fine. Like, we're also here to help people navigate the region. I think for international GPs, they kind of need to move away from this old ideal of you come here for 24 hours, put your hand out and get some money and leave. Those days are gone. You need to build a relationship. You are in line with thousands of other GPs that are pitching the same people that you're pitching, and they're doing the same Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Riyadh circuit, and times have changed. And so what are you bringing to the region? Where's the knowledge transfer happening back to this region that makes you stand out? And back to the empathy bit that Tamer mentioned, like, why do you care? Why do you care about getting money from this region? Is it just just a check, or do you actually care about kind of elevating the ecosystem in whatever sector you're focused on?
Yeah, well, we've earned our place. We've worked hard for almost 2 decades. We've built an ecosystem together, right? And we need to work together to change the narrative that the relationship between external GPs and our market is extractive, right? It has to be a reciprocal relationship. You're raising capital, why? What are you bringing to the table, right? And that comes also from our LPs, right? Well, what are you going to bring to the region? What kind of skills and experience and funding and cross sort of country experience? So a lot of investors globally will do this sort of global horizontal play. Great, right? Help us, teach us, let's learn together, let's grow together, let's build together. It's not an extractive relationship anymore, and we have the power to change that narrative together.
So as an allocator now, if I put on my allocator hat, to me, I love this environment, because now I'm getting to see how solid are you as an investor. You spoke about things that I love hearing from a GP. I'm also not naive to recognize that, venture, you're gonna have some failures. This is a part of life. And also, in a way, the fact that if you pass these couple of years and you stay, then you've really created now a venture community. So my comment, my comment on that is what I've heard you guys say. It is something that you need to really spread around, because this is what is required. And do you feel others who are having the same thoughts, or we haven't gone through the cleansing process?
I wouldn't call it a cleansing process. I think we have to lead by example, right? And if I do it, Sonia does it, maybe some other person will do it, and then we become three, and then we become four, and then we become five. And if we all commit and repeat the same message over and over and over again, and then in 2 to 3 year times in our moment of truth, we turn out to be right, hopefully, right? You know, it will happen, but we have to stay the course.
Let me ask you now a question about.
I think we're being kicked out, Hush.
Okay. Can we get one question? The marks. How are you doing with the marks of your portfolio? The marks. How are you marking your book?
Look, it depends, right? So if we are genuinely seeing a company is on the verge of collapse or disappearing or has taken a significant write down or the macros around it have changed, then we'll absolutely mark it down. If it takes a down round, we'll absolutely mark it down. And if that means we are adjusting the value of our portfolio to a time when markets were more reasonable, then so be it, right? There's no shame in it. It's a reality, and we have to be honest and transparent with our partners, whether they're founders or LPs.
I
Sonia?
agree. No, I agree. And I think like with us, like we actually issued a document to our LPs explaining where we mark down what basically and why. And so again, as long as it's about for the GPs, I guess here it's all about communication with your LPs ultimately. And again, it's a reflection of how good a relationship you have with your founder and how transparent they're being with you as an investor as well, right? So it's kind of this like triangular like love-hate relationship, I guess. But you know, again, at the center of that love-hate relationship is that honesty and that transparency. And so we have to be honest with our LPs, just like the founders need to be honest with us as well.
Thank you, guys. I
Thank
learned
you.
something new.
Thank you, Hashim.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.